Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with
CJ Lou from the Fired Up with CJ show.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
If you've ever been short on time, not had enough time, or felt at wit's end to find the time, then do we have the time finding show for you. Today we'll talk about making time, finding time, getting more efficient with your time, plus finding the time to breathe. That plus
Wow.
rolling research, dancing in the rain, schedule flips, trips to Taiwan, and what in the world podcast launch accelerators have to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, CJ. Are you ready to
I
shine?
am ready to shine.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
All right, so before we dive right into things, CJ, I can see this one coming, but how are you doing on time this week?
Well, I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay. It's more of a sense of not having time, and then when I have free time, I'm not I'm filling that time with noise versus doing something good for myself. That's how I would put it. Because
Do
it's
you
not
com-
even productive. Sometimes it's being just lying flat. That was what I really need to do, and I'm avoiding that.
Okay, well, we've got to ask, why are you avoiding the lying flat if you need it?
I don't know because I think because okay, here's why. Because my ego is attached to getting things done and
Mhm.
achieving. And so when I'm lying flat, I'm achieving rest that I need in order to be more productive, but somehow my mind is like, yeah, but there's another thing. Oh, look at that email. Wouldn't it be nice if you cleared your email because there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that's just been like dross hanging off and that you need to just, clean up and be done with. And then what I'm finding is that when I actually need to do things, I just don't like. I'm like I have a article that's been holding in the queue for about a week and a half, and it's like it's already written. There's four paragraphs that need to be edited. That's it, and it's just sitting there. So I have a lot of stuff like that. That I mean, I could be productive and just finish it off, but I find myself not doing that and instead running away. So generally, when that happens, for me, that's a cue that it's a compensating energy. And my husband's like, "Yeah, I've been noticing you've been eating a lot of comfort food,
Mhm.
otherwise known as junk food."
That's fun for you food,
Yeah,
yes.
yes. And I was like, "Oh, I think I'm running away from something. I'm not quite sure what I'm running away from, but I think those are all signs that I'm running away from something." So that's my story on time. What is your story on time?
Well, it's definitely it's been a time, no pun intended, where things are picking up. They're picking
Yep.
up for the fall, certainly. They're picking up with our podcast launch accelerator coming up. In so many different ways, time is, if not tightening up, then it's becoming more challenging for the fall, maybe is the best way to put it. I'm not even sure the best way to put it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get done right now that does get done.
Right.
And I find myself, I also have that displaced or misplaced energy where if I've been doing a lot, to shut off the jets completely is hard. The brain wants to keep
Right.
doing. Like, gimme, 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 gimme,
You're
gimme.
on a momentum. It's like a flywheel that just, and you just feel like I have to keep on going.
And
Right.
unfortunately, that momentum is a hamster wheel.
Right.
So like when I finish
Right.
the interview and I go, it's really cool. I've got it set up now that I finish an interview and I go and I open up a web browser so that I can send an email, do something, check what's been happening when I've been or while I was doing interviews.
Hmm.
And if I click open here on Google Chrome and I'm opening it up, and a giant image comes across the screen that says, "Turn off the computer and go outside."
That's fantastic. So you actually literally have programmed something to just force you to like remember to go outside.
Yeah, and so I'll go, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I got to do, because I do, I have to back up my file afterwards. I back it up on the cloud as well as the computer. But that thing is just staring in front of me. And so I will take action a couple minutes after I hop on instead of getting lost in serfdom or something. And I will kick myself outside.
Mm.
And if I didn't have that reminder, you'd catch me half an hour, who knows how
Mm.
long later,
Mm-hmm.
doing the things that feel like they need to get done. But the needs to get done almost always, not always, but almost always can wait at least a little bit for you to be able to inject the time for yourself.
Yeah, I did this thing. I actually talked to a couple months ago. I talked to a couple of different productivity experts, and they talk about, and we've talked about before, the importance of after every hour that passes, getting up and moving around. So, as a way to kind of move the juices, move the blood flow, move the energy, move the oxygen, just moving around so that you kind of stay refreshed and good. And I started doing that, and I really liked it. And I just forgot, and I thought, where did that go? Because I went on vacation, and all those habits kind of
They
got
went on
shifted.
vacation too.
Yeah, I find that that's one of the hardest things about the summer is because a lot of the structure that you've built kind of gets dismantled because it's kind of like you described that Hawaii time that someone says, "Hey, do you want to go out to a picnic? Do you want to go? You have a friend visiting," and you get a lot more people visiting during a summer. You have a lot of other things that distract you that are fun, right? And they only happen during the summer, like sailing or swimming, and so it's really it's hard. I think during this. I think that one of the things that I'm experiencing, which I think is the fall transition, is that you move from unstructured to structure, and that's kind of a like you have to like move to a different mentality almost. For me, at least, I don't know. Does that resonate with you?
We're still going to want to get out, and not still going to want to. We're still going to get out and play.
Right.
But literally today was the first day of the fall schedule. And our fall schedule is earlier interviews. Usually it's get out early and play
Right.
before it gets too warm.
Right.
Now we're shifting to you can do a little gym time first thing in the morning, but then it's get your interviews done and then get out to play when it's warmer out.
Right. Because of the weather shift.
Exactly. And the weather here, I think it might be Jessica and I were talking about this. Maybe it's a mass consciousness because there's no logical reason that September 1st the weather seems to shift, at least continent wide. I've seen this in Colorado so many
Yeah.
times. Here the temperature dropped 20 degrees and rained on September 1st.
Yeah.
So, but now I've flipped that schedule on its head, and it's going to take some time. The summer schedule was a little uncomfortable. It was so much you wanted to do early in the day. It
Right.
was actually hard. This should be easier, but we are such creatures of habit.
Right.
And so when you flip that schedule even a little bit, lots of pieces come flying out.
Right. That's a really good point. I actually wrote this, read this book called Buddhist Standard Time by Lama Surya Das. Both of us have
Yeah.
interviewed him, and he was saying that in the olden days, farmers and anyone would be living by the daylight and what was happening, and so we are greatly affected by changes in weather, changes in sunlight, and those things have already happened. Like I used to wake up at 5:30 and it would be sunny, and now I wake up at 5:30 and it's dark. And the same thing happened with us where all of a sudden the weather was like 90 and now it's 60. I mean, literally 60 and raining. 90 and hot and humid and now 60, and it kind of happened like like that, just like what it did in New Jersey here in Washington. And those kind of changes like weather, temperature, humidity, light, they really affect us because we are part of nature, right?
I like to think of what would the animals do? What do they do in this circumstance? And I think they hunker down until they've adapted and then they come out to play again. But they take
Right.
the time. They don't force themselves to go through it. When there's a big weather front or a big weather shift, the forest goes quiet. And that's because everybody's hunkering down, going, okay, we're going to let this pass. And you adapt. We never adapt overnight. And so your circadian rhythm's out of whack, your body's ability. There's a reason if you're good in heat, you're not good in cold. It's rare that you're good at everything at the same time.
Right.
And so your body, mind, and maybe spirit are having a holy crap moment.
It's hard. It's just even subtle things. Like for this interview, it's kind of cold, and I have a short sleeve shirt. And I thought, should I wear a sweater? Like, I'm not even sure if I should be wearing a short sleeve shirt or a sweater. It sounds stupid, but those are kind of that little shift is kind of confusing. I'm like, I'm not sure what to do. Like, I'm not sure what is the appropriate thing to wear so I won't have to get changed again because I'm not clear exactly what's happening with the weather, and that if things on the outside infect the inside, it kind of causes this kind of confusion, I think, on the inside when external things are changing and you have no control. I can't control when the sun rises or set. I can't control the temperature, so you have to adjust, and your body's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I think all those things.
It sounds in a sense like dieting.
Yeah,
As strange as it is, so I've had a fairly healthy diet. We talked a few weeks ago. I got really sick to my stomach.
yeah.
I think from potatoes before they were cooked that maybe had gone bad, and then I
Right.
cooked them and didn't know it. And so potatoes has been kind of a staple food of my diet, and
Yeah.
now I really don't want to eat them.
Hmm.
Um,
I don't blame you because you got seriously sick.
yeah, and so taking out one major food from the diet has left me walking around going, what am I going to eat? And the what am I going to eat has translated into, I don't feel so good because I'm a little bit underfueled. So one little thing
Yeah, that's
has
huge.
this ripple effect, just one thing, a silly potato.
Right.
On... okay, I could go get French fries. Ooh, that sounds good. But
Right. No, but I think that actually what's interesting is that we, I don't think we're fully aware until this conversation and you mentioning the weather and me thinking about, oh yeah, I read that book on Buddhist Standard Time, and when I really think about it, yeah, there are all these changes. And when I walk around, people are like, oh, I think it's just because the school year, because that's another big thing for
Mhm.
September is like I remember, like there's something in your past that you remember, like, or remember like this is a new beginning, there's something new, a shifting that's happening. I'm going back to school, I'm having to like, dig in and like get the books out and start meeting new people, like that whole thing. I think as much as the external environment, there's also like a historical experience that we all are, I think, reliving, whether we have kids or not. I think that's going on too.
My birthday is August 25th.
Hmm.
And particularly growing up, I mentioned it was a challenging time. But one of the things that I liked least about my birthday is it signified that school was either there or just around the corner.
Yeah.
So I was always in mourning on my birthday. Oh no, it's come around again. Oh crap, I got to go to school. And that kind of mourning lack of freedom, I think really
Yeah.
gets, unless you're excited about school, gets in your psyche.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's exactly that because I've seen it because my two boys are going back to school and I'm not going back to school, but I'm still living in the house where they're experiencing that energy of feeling that. And it re triggers me into remembering, like, oh, yeah. It's kind of, and it's exactly that's the value of freedom because in the summer there's some kind of sense of freedom and
Mhm.
ability to sleep later because it's later out and do more during the day, and all those kinds of things give you a sense of, and I think it probably is related to the daylight because there's so much longer days that you can do more in a day and you can actually have more freedom. So I think that that is the key value that you start going, oh, I'm not
Yeah.
free again. I can't have as much fun. I mean, freedom and fun to me is what summer signifies.
And if you think from the animal kingdom,
Yeah.
animals in the summer, there's probably a lot of food to go around.
Right.
So unless you're in a desert, or a drought, that's a different story. But under average conditions, you've got plenty of food. It's warm enough. Maybe you need to sleep during the hot part of the day, but you don't have to worry about the cold. There's not a lack going on.
Right.
So you really are free. You don't have to work as hard. You
Right.
don't even have to be storing up so much. You don't have to be fighting the elements, so to speak. So you really are free. It's
Right.
siesta time for the
Yeah.
summer. Once September 1st comes, it's I better put on some belly fat for
Right.
the fall if I'm going to make it through this winter.
Right. I've got to like a squirrel. I'm like I've got to go find
Get the
all those
nuts.
nuts and like start gathering them in my little hovel because
And
I'm
guess what?
preparing for the waiting for the winter to come.
It's in our DNA.
I think that's
It's
true.
literally in our DNA that September comes. I can picture, caveman with his stick. Okay, not caveman, but whatever it is, man with his stick on the savannah going, it's going to get cold around here. I better get busy to take care of my tribe for the fall. And something ramps up inside of us.
Right.
Just like moving from Maui to New York City or just outside New York City. And Maui, it's kind of kick back, lay back, brah. This ain't the mainland.
Right.
And it's a great attitude. But you get to New York City and it's go, 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 go. There's an energy shift. You get sucked into it and you find you get more stuff done near the city.
Right.
The same energy shift is taking place from the summer ah, this ain't the winter. The winter, man, kick back, brah. And
Right.
all of a sudden, September hits and you've been slingshotted into the city.
Even New York, that what I find is most people go to the Hamptons or they're going to the beach more often. They have like some place to like get a refuge out of New York, whatever it may be. And then I do think you get slingshotted back in September. I mean, even in the city that's go, 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 even that city kind of slows down. When I've visited New York, and I don't know, I feel like starting July and August, it's like nowhere's land. No one, not a lot of people are in the city aside from tourists. Is that true?
It's definitely slowed down by quite a bit. Now, I don't go into the city much now. How do I put it? The energy is a little strong for me,
Yeah,
CJ.
it is.
And
Oh, for me
so
too.
in 2000, I was working in the fashion industry. And so I had an office 2 weeks of the year, 2 weeks of the month, New York City, 1 week of the month, just outside LA and near Malibu by Westlake Village. And then 1 week home in Colorado. But weekends were always Colorado.
Right.
And I did a year of New York. So I watched it go through the cycles of the year and how it transitioned. But it's really strong for me. And so now I go in, well, I go in under duress. The only times we still have a mindful running club in New York City. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
600 members. And I've told Jessica, if somebody twists my arm enough, I'll come in and hold another event
Right.
in Central Park. I love it. But getting me in and out of the city and the trains and everything, but
The
the energy,
energy is really crazy because I went to New York and I realized that my voice picks up. I actually, when I
you got to cross the street.
Yeah, that well, it's funny because my dear friend, when I moved from Boston, and I was actually in New York and walking, and in Boston, more so in New York, I was walking in New York, and people walk really fast. It's almost like a run walk when you're in New York, and you don't
I used to
realize
love
it.
it. I was competitive. I didn't want
Yeah,
anybody to pass me.
and it's like somehow you get used to that as being normal. And
Yeah.
so I went to go visit her in California, and she's like, "Why are you running?" I'm like, "I'm just walking." I'm like, "Why are you walking so slowly?" And she's like, "This is how most people walk." And so I do think like even like simple things like the way that people walk and the way that they talk and the way that they move around is like it's just faster. And then when I get in that environment, it all boom snaps back, and I'm exactly that same way. And then after like maybe day four, I get exhausted because I'm just my body used to be that way. It's no longer that way, and I find it completely utterly exhausting. And in fact, I was taking a train to go to Connecticut, and I got into the train station, and there's this little all wooded coffee shop, and I went to get a coffee, and I instantly felt calm because it looked like Seattle. And I was like, and the people there were like, "Hey, how's it going? Can I get you coffee?" And I was like, "It just feels like Seattle." And I instantly calmed down. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that I had amped up because you don't, it's like a lobster in a boiling pot. You don't even realize that you've amped up until I was in this like Northwest coffee place and the people were super chill. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really, really amped up. It's kind of a weird thing. That's how I can't take New York as much as I used to either. I mean, I love it, but I can take it in small doses.
And I
Same as
love
you.
people in New York. I do enjoy the energy of the city. It is just it's strong for me as well.
Yeah.
But in a sense, bringing that full circle, you're now in New York. When the season changed, so to speak, the energies changed and your body is trying to catch up. And so you're just becoming aware now. This is the fatigue maybe is starting to even set
Yeah.
in of, wow, I just got amped up. So it's kind of nice. September 1st is the middle of the week. We've got the weekend around the corner.
Right.
People, I guess, are hearing this the following week, but you've got a weekend around the corner.
Right.
I think it means that it's extra important this weekend to focus on the self care and getting yourself back into
Ready to
your
go.
rhythm.
Yeah. Okay, so what's happened? You've been doing rolling research. What's that mean?
A rolling research. Um, Geez, what does that mean? Let me pause for a brief second here. I, Out of complete embarrassment, what is, oh, yes, okay, rolling research. And let me take a note here from our fine editor. Rolling research is, we're starting our podcast launch accelerator,
Hmm.
podcast accelerator.
Right.
Boy,
And
can I
for
speak
people
too
who aren't
fast?
familiar with it, what is your podcast accelerator?
So our podcast launch accelerator it's an 8-week program to help people start a show, but not just any show, to start a fantastic show that's going to go up the charts, that's going to build expertise, brand recognition, so
Right.
that it's not just a little show eking by. Now,
Right.
if you're in a niche, you're not going to have thousands and thousands, but it'll help make a really pro show.
Right.
So we've been doing a lot of research for this program,
Mm-hmm.
and really working to make this something very special. Part of that has required doing a lot more listening to podcasts.
Mm.
And typically, when I drive down the road, even though I'm a podcast producer and I consume podcasts when I'm driving, I tend to like silence. But
Oh.
but now I've fallen in love with a lake that's somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour from here.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've had a hard time justifying going there on my own. Maybe as a weekend outing, maybe with Jessica. However, with the power of podcasts and the fact that I really do need to do this
Right.
research,
You're learning while you're driving.
I'm
Yay.
I'm becoming my target audience, and I'm queuing up the podcasts and playing them as I'm driving down the road to the lake.
Love it. Oh, I love that.
So it's becoming a win-win. Now I still prefer silence when I drive. So when I hear that person, whoever that lovely person is, start talking, at first I'm like, we want to shut it off. And then I'm like, no, no, this is your rolling library right now. This is extremely good for you. And part of that is some of the podcasts that I'm listening to have great content, but are a bit jarring, shall we speak.
Energetically?
Yes.
What's
And so
what's jarring about it energetically?
the content has a complaining bent to it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I wanted everything that, and this is going to sound like a complaint, and I really don't mean it that way, but what I mean is I think of everything in terms of nutrition. We just had an amazing guest on, Tommy Rosa. He wrote the book Health Revelations from Heaven and Earth. Had a multiple week near death experience,
Mm.
and in a coma, shocked back to life 5 times,
Wow.
and meaning 5 separate occasions. And he talks about how everything is energy, everything's frequency, and how we want to raise our vibration, and how important it is to raise our vibration. And for myself, I think it means that everything we consume, whether that's consuming food, whether that's the air we take in, whether that's the experiences we have, the friends we associate with, their friends that they associate with, or what we take in and multimedia, whether that's a podcast, TV, movie, whatever, we want it to have the highest frequency, the highest
Mm.
vibration possible to it. And so when I have to listen to something that has great content but isn't vibrating at quite that high frequency, it becomes like my castor oil. Is it castor oil or is that a motor oil? Or whatever fish oil it is that I need to take. Oh boy.
Castor oil is you take for your digestion, I think, so that things can go through.
Yeah, so something like that. You know it's good for you.
I don't think even for you. You do it because something is stuck and you
Oh
need like
God.
something.
Okay, well there's a better analogy in here that's something that just bitter herbs that you have to take because somebody made it for you because you're sick and it's good for you, but you don't like it. And
Yeah.
in this case, I know I'm going to learn a lot, even though it kind of grates on me a little bit. So, I prefer that silent bliss. And
Right.
then if not, something uplifting. But sometimes you need to do your research wherever you can.
Right.
And then if that's,
I'll tell you something funny. A dear friend of mine, she loves me, but she loves me. I have different aspects of me, right? And she loves me for kind of like the deep, introspective, kind of thoughtful, meaning-seeking me, right?
is this the friend that can only handle you in short doses and then you have to go away?
Not sure which I want. That's probably all of my friends,
Oh no.
but I'm not sure which one it was. But she likes when I talk about things that are meaningful and deep. And she said, "Honey, I listened to your show with that guy. You just raising your woohoo, whatever that was, and it was I just hated it." she said,
Oh no.
and she said, because
I
she doesn't.
send her love anyway.
No, she doesn't like that energy, right? So much as like you're saying, like you listen to the energy of some of these podcasts, and it's hard for you to digest. She's her energy is kind of like more Chekhov, that kind of Russian, that blue movement, that blue art group, that kind of like dark but mysterious and beautiful, like Krishna Das. Both of us know him.
A little broody.
He's beautiful. He is deep. He
Oh, he's
is
awesome.
meaningful, right? And he's a little bit, I don't know if broody, but yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm in my head struggling with this thing, and I'm just, like it's that energy. That's her kind of energy, and I can get there, and I've definitely gone there. But my version isn't like that, but I go there, right? Like, God, I don't know why this is happening to me right now, and I'm contemplating it, and I'm wondering, and I'm feeling a little bit sad and emotional. And so that's her world, and I go in that world because I can naturally go in there. But when I go into this world, she just not interested at all.
There was a term that came up recently, and I think it's very appropriate here, which is a disruptor. And I guess my woohoo would
Yeah.
be very disruptive.
Right. If you're kind of like this, and someone goes, woohoo, you're like, it's like,
What are you doing to me?
right. Just like I'm imagining, because the podcasts that are popular are usually like, hey, man, what's going on? And it's kind of like this, and another thing, like it has that kind of energy.
You were listening to my show.
Right. No, but I remember, like, from listening to various, like, radio, like Danny Bonaducci. He has this radio show, and I mean, no offense, Danny, I doubt he's listening to this show, but when I listen to him, I just feel like fingernails on a chalkboard, because it's like, well, anyways, I'm talking to this woman, and she says to me, blah, 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 and I go, what? No way, It just has a certain
You do
energy.
that well, TJ.
But you know what I mean? It has that kind of energy. So I think it's if you're aspiring or in a different vibration, it's like, all those things are kind of shocking. So, anyways, that's what's happening to you and listening to these podcasts. But I think it's interesting, though, just to know how different your energy is, right? Like, your energy is light, it's fun, it's inspirational, right? It's just a different kind of show, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with one energy versus the other, but you will
No.
find sort of like bees to honey. You'll find what resonates with you, with where you're at.
Right. Right. Yeah. And the funny thing about this gal, who probably doesn't like the show that you and I do together, or she's already said
So
she
she's
doesn't.
probably not listening to this one today,
She's
so you
not
can talk
listening.
about her behind her
Yeah,
back.
she
Oh,
doesn't listen to this anyways. Yeah, but I think it's funny because when I'm together with her, what I think she does is likes my lightness. But then it's like a certain version of my lightness. Like when I go, what she calls Phyllis Diller on her, she just doesn't like it. So there's this kind of frenetic, happy, like, woo, like two dogs playing in the park. Doesn't like. But she likes that I'm light, but not this version of my lightness. Is that funny?
it's interesting. Jessica and I, we've been talking about something along these lines recently, which is filters, and how much we're unaware of what we picked up. We came back from swimming. Was it last week? We got out of the pool. We got out of the 7 Mile pool, the lake, and we go walk up to the car, and there's a couple wondering what to do. They'd hiked over from one trail, got lost, popped out at the wrong place. And this trail network, it's actually easy to do. We almost did it, Jessica and I as well. And they had to either call one of those taxi services and get a 13-mile ride back, or figure out some way how to get back. And so I see them there. We get out of the water, and I'm like, doo, doo, doo. Where are you going? Let's give you a lift. It turns out it was a cardiologist and another professional, accountant, a cardiologist and an accountant, and we started talking about the show.
This almost seems like a joke. So it's like, what happens when a cardiologist, accountant, and an inspirational blogger goes, get in a car? Okay, so what happened?
What happens is you tell them the show is about one thing,
Yeah.
and what they hear is something else.
Oh, what did
Because
you tell? What did they hear?
Well, we were talking, it was something about having a particular guest on, having to do, I think maybe it was heart math.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
talking about the heart resonant frequency. and our guest completely brought it around to diseases and molecular and something, which was germane but was way off from what we were talking about
Right.
because we each have a box that we put things in, and that was the box he was working in. And Jessica questioned after that. There's nothing wrong with the box that he went with. She questioned, what boxes are we putting things in? We're vibrating at a certain place. We're in that certain, like you're describing, lightness or fun for life, but we're putting things in our own boxes. We all
Hmm.
do it. It's a
Yeah,
survival
absolutely.
mechanism.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think actually the boxes are contained, like if there's walls around those boxes are experiences and stories that just keep us in these boxes, right?
Yeah.
Assuming the good or bad about, we have to make judgments whether we like it or not. We're making judgments every single day. Is it safe to cross the street? Is it not safe? Does that person look great? Do they not? Do I trust them? Like, we're making those kind of judgments, and those judgments are all anchored in these boxes, and in those boxes are our stories and our experiences, and they're just like we were talking about. September comes along and you're like, school, like, no more fun or freedom. Now, that doesn't have to be in the box, but that's in the box because we have our set of experiences and beliefs, and all boxes are the beliefs and the thoughts and the structure and our experiences and our, just like the cardiologist. So the cardiologist started hearing, well, you told him about heart math, and then he heard what? Um,
Oh, I don't remember because I was focused more on the drive. So
right,
Jessica was having more of the conversation.
right,
I think, talking about heart resonance and frequency and breathing in and out in the heart, or how the heart puts out more of a frequency than the brain does, and is more in charge, and heart coherence and things of that sort. And he took it in um, some sort of, I think it was a disease area that he took it in about working with the heart, but it wasn't exactly about the frequency that the heart was putting out. It was something very different.
right.
Um, that was
Yeah.
kind of tangential, but it was probably something that he works on a daily basis and something that's always on his mind. And so it triggered a thought which was very different than where we were coming from,
Right.
but made perfect sense to him.
Right. All right.
It's sort of like saying, "Wow, you have a beautiful blue sweater on,"
Yeah.
or maybe you say, "Michael, you have a beautiful," and I have a blue shirt on right now. You
Right.
have a great blue shirt, and I think to myself, "Blue, yeah, I'm going to the lake on Saturday."
Right. And I'd be like, oh, the sky is so blue. Anyhow, let me talk about the rain in the sky. And you're like, what? Like, where did that go?
Because that's where your
Right. That's
box
where
is.
my that's where my
Exactly.
weird mind went. All right. So tell me about talking about dancing in the rain.
So this has to do with, I typically am a somewhat fair weather runner when I can
Yeah.
be. Um, and I try to, well, I guess that puts it well. Fair weather when I can be. Go to the gym or something, but not out playing in the rain. Well, September 1st came along and it was pouring rain, cats and dogs. And I said, no, not this year. I said, first off, we need to keep the systems going because you are not short on time, but we need to keep you functioning at your best. And I'm entering this fall feeling the best that I've felt in years. I'm like, so
Mm-hmm.
we've got to keep this going. I'm
Right.
a plural. There's me and there's the me that cheering me on.
Right.
So
All the versions of you. Isn't
yes,
today September 1st? Why are you talking about it as if it's past tense? Isn't today September 1st? Oh, today's September 2nd. Okay, this is yesterday. Where am I? Okay, got it. So yesterday. This is yesterday that you.
so yesterday I went out in the pouring rain and I had a hoot. I had a blast. I got outside of my comfort zone. I got outside of what my usual experience with, and I said, not this fall. We're going to do things a little bit differently.
Hmm.
Now, I did ask myself, since we of course are moving at some point this year, I said, would you be comfortable running in the rain if that's all you had for the next 6 months?
Are you
And I said,
planning to come to Seattle?
no, we have no plans on coming to Seattle, CJ. And I looked at a little town called Squim, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it has the theoretical rain shadow. But it's a rain shadow from the Olympic Mountains, not a cloud shadow, meaning there's a Hawaiian term which means puka, which means a hole, like a hole in the clouds. We lived in a place on Maui where for several years there was a puka. It rained all around, but not where we were. We had
Yes.
cactus literally growing in our yards. Squim just to the west and across the water from Seattle, because of the way the rain hits the Olympic Mountains, it gets only a fraction of the rain. It only gets like 13 inches of rain a year,
Wow, that's interesting.
but it has almost as many cloudy, gray, and dreary days.
Right.
So it's just not rainy. And they say every mile you get out of town is an inch more rain. So if you want to go play in the mountains, you're still going to get doused.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm running along asking myself, would you be okay if you had 6 months of this? And I said, it's not what I would prefer. Could I survive? Yes. Prefer? No. I said, what if it was cold in this way? I'm like, oh, heck no. And then yesterday afternoon, I'm like, I really want to get a short bike ride in. I'm like, my mind wants to get a short bike ride in. Why doesn't the body? Well, because it's not sunny out. Oh, yeah, there's that. Then the sun came out for 5 minutes, and my body's like, let's party.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning how important certain things are as far as future geography.
Right.
But I'm also
Interesting.
trying to stretch that. I think it's important to challenge ourselves. So we're coming into a different time. We go from one pattern, our summer pattern, into our fall pattern. But why not set up a different pattern and do things differently, either for growth? Well, it's all for growth, I guess. But I bet we don't have to repeat for sort of the I'm short on time. We're always probably short on time in the fall. And certainly when the holidays will be coming up, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be short on time.
Right.
But what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if we shake things up enough that we find time or find different ways to look at it or different ways to recharge because we flip the schedule on its head?
You know what's so funny? So the reason why I was asking about September 1st is that today I was running back from the gym and it was pouring rain. It hasn't rained this hard in Seattle for this whole summer. And it was pouring, like the kind of rain where it's you I went into Starbucks and it looked like I just like took a shower and then walked into Starbucks to get a coffee. It's that much rain.
Puddle on the wood
Yeah,
floor.
it was that kind of, we were like, wow, it's really raining out there. And it was raining, and I thought, well, I just did a really hard workout. I don't know if I really want to run back home. I just don't have any energy to run, but it's raining. And I thought, well, what if you just enjoyed the rain and instead of going into, oh, it's raining, you know, thousands of hundreds
Which is
of
not like you can do anything about
hundreds
it.
of cloudy, rainy days are upon my future, which in Seattle it is. It's like literally between, depending on the year, September can either be a nice month or a year, and then sometimes September is just a crappy month, and it just September, October, November, December, January, February, March starts changing. But it's literally dark, cloudy day, and I'm not joking. Like I should show you. I'm going to show you outside.
And while you're
See
doing
that
that,
outside?
I
That's
got
what it looks like in my.
gray and wet. I've
Yeah.
got to ask. We love people in the Northwest. We
Yeah.
resonate very well with people in the Northwest. Is
Yeah.
it because you're submerged underwater for 6 months that you get this attitude of being able to roll with anything?
I real if you people in the Northwest really are outdoorsy
Mm-hmm.
and they like being, if you didn't go outside because it was raining, you would never go outside. So you just get used to going outside and being wet. If you go out in downtown in Seattle, and you look and you walk around, the tourists because they have an umbrella. In the Northwest, you're just constantly damp. If it's raining, you're like, okay, like it's raining. My hair is going to get wet. Everything is going to get wet. And that's just the way that it is. Like you wouldn't even bother bringing an umbrella because that takes too much thought and energy. It's just raining. And now when it pours down, that's the only time I'm going to bring an umbrella. And generally speaking, I'll probably be deluging an umbrella in a really hard rain because I don't ever think to bring an umbrella. Only tourists in Seattle bring umbrellas. You just don't bring them.
I've got at least two in my trunk.
Yeah, you just don't do it. But yeah, I think because of that, because it literally is like I showed you. I mean, it's 11:30 in the morning, and you just saw
It
what it
looks
looked like.
like 5:36 at night.
It looks like 5:30 or 6 at night. It's about 60 degrees outside. It's raining, and it's like that. If worst case, it could be starting in September all the way to March, and it's like that. And what happens is that people around February or March or December, when you go to Hawaii or Phoenix or any of those places, I see a ton of people from Seattle because you just can't take it. You're like, I just need a little bit of sun, just something to break the gray monotony. So it does happen. Okay, so what is okay? So I get you're dancing in the rain, and it's funny that I actually had the same experience and thought, okay, how can I change my relationship to this? So instead, I view this as a cleansing experience that I view like I enjoy the rain, and so I was thinking about how do I shift it so that I put myself in a different box than where everyone else is going. I think everyone else is kind of going, "Oh my gosh, it's already starting. Oh no, it's raining." So how can how can I shift the box around it? But it's funny that the rain did that for both of us while we were
Mhm.
running in the rain. I love that. Okay, schedule flips, trips to
Well, schedule flip.
Taiwan. What's that all about?
Trips to Taiwan is a month and a half from now. I think it's a month and a half from now. Jessica is taking a trip with her mom. Her mom's from Taiwan. Both of her
Yep.
parents are from Taiwan.
Uh-huh.
And they're taking a trip there. And it is a challenge for me because she's the producer of the show.
Oh yeah.
And she's going to be gone for several weeks. At the same time, I have our podcast launch accelerator. I have this show which we're running. And so it's going to be an intriguing time. And I'm both a little bit nervous about it.
Right.
And I know that when you, what do they say? Give a busy person something to do and they'll get it done.
Right.
I know that I will both rise to the occasion and it will change me, not scar tissue, but it will change me in some positive way. It will
Right.
change my capacity for doing things. It will change the organization, how I structure how I do things, my time management. And so while I'm not exactly excited about it because there is going to be some challenging moments in it, I know that these punctuation marks where you can look at something with dread and go, oh no, this is coming. What in the world am I going to do about it? Or you can go, really is an opportunity. I can see as an opportunity. I know when I'm crying late at night and I'm struggling to get through, it's all going to be for the best. But it's one of those times where I know I'm going to come out on the other side
Right.
and something really cool is going to come from it. Not something that I'll understand 10 years from now, but I'm going to have to be on my A game on a lot of stuff. So I think some cool stuff will come out quickly from it.
Yeah, so if you focus your mind not on, oh, Jessica's going, oh my God, I'm hosed. Oh my God, I've got so much
Thanks,
work to
CJ.
do. No, I mean, that's how, I'm not saying that that's what you should, I'm just
No,
saying
no,
that
no, no.
if I take like if I were to like channel the normal response, the typical response, not normal, the typical response to that's like, oh no, I'm screwed. I have so much work. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Where like that's kind of the normal response, but then instead of that response, you're saying, well, how about if I shifted it to, wow, who knows? Like maybe I will actually become more efficient and we'll refine our processes as a result of it. And I'll find out because I'm doing the back end stuff, I'll learn out how I can be more efficient in the front end to save time for Jessica when she gets back. I didn't understand this until I did all the full range of all the different things that are part of it. Like my guess is that something like that will happen and you're saying focus on the positive thing that could happen versus the negative because and it's funny because my son I had the same conversation with my son because he's writing college applications which are
Yep.
so hard. If I had to write those college applications like tell me about your identity and what you believe about your identity, I'd be like, oh my God, like that's a really, if you really want to answer that question really truly deeply from your heart, that's hard. Like I know what people want to hear. Oh, I
Mhm.
really believe in Chinese. I'm really proud of my heritage. Like, that's like the easy answer that I know what that's people want to hear. I could do that, but that's not really authentically how I feel. It's a mixed bag. And if I were to write the mixed bag, what would it sound like? And so my son is writing those things. And it's like, who are you? What do you want to do in life? I'm like, these are the hardest questions for any single person, let alone a high school kid.
It's
So
true.
all his friends are like, "Oh no, I have to write my college apps. Oh, I hate it. My parents are torturing me." And I was like, I know all your friends are saying that, and here's the thing that you may not see in the long run is this is like a really pivotal juncture in your life where you're actually figuring out who you are, who you were as a young adult and who you want to be coming up to your college life. And that's actually a really an important rite of passage. And to spend the time and really do this, it can create net dividends that you don't even see. Yes, it's hard writing for, it's hard, but you also learn how to write a personal narrative, which is important to actually understand how to write in different forms. So you learn about a personal narrative. You're setting yourself up for success in ways that you probably, and kind of marking a period of your life. And so, yes, you can focus on all the awful things and how there's deadlines and how all your friends are having a hard time, or you can actually focus on the positive things. And so it's your choice. You have the freedom to choose one of those two things. The positive thing is going to make less suffering, which drains your energy. I'm like, each time you complain, your energy tank is going further and further down. And so you just have to decide, is that where you want to use your energy, or can you actually create a positive frame and not deplete the energy as much? There is going to be some type of energy that you're going to use in writing these apps, but, you know.
It's real. I like how you're thinking that. So it goes brings us back kind of full circle to nutrition and what you put into yourselves and where you
Yeah.
want to vibrate. Had on a guest earlier today, Carl Honore. He wrote the book The Slow Fix, and
Mm-hmm.
he has some amazing TED talks on kind of going slow to go fast. And he really got me thinking before today's interview and during the interview of how much I want to slow down in a sense to look holistically at the big picture. Where do I want to go? Where do I really see things a few years from now? And that's an opportunity that your son has now. Where does he envision the future? And if you're going 100 miles an hour, and that's a challenge for everybody this fall, because we are going to feel like we're going 100 miles an hour. But the only way to move, dangerous to use the word ahead, but to have the positive growth that we'd like to experience is to step back for a moment and really, and that means slow down for a little bit the mind and try to think big picture. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially during the busy moments, if you can step back and dream, I think it gives you the juice to get through those times.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was saying, like, I know I should slow down. Even I wake up in the morning and it says to slow down. And I think it's because of the things that we talked about earlier, the transition of fall, from summer to fall. But it's hard to do. But I think it's so important. And I literally like forced myself to lay flat and just read a book the other day. And I mean, it took a while though, because there was a part of me like, oh, keep on going, keep on going. And then but it was so good to just take that even a little bit. It was like an hour, 20 minutes the
Jessica,
other day.
Jessica's been making meals for us since the potato fiasco. She's
Right.
kindly been making a lot of meals for us. And when she goes, Michael, food, I try to, throw down the headphones, sprint out of the office, sprint for the kitchen, and I'm there like a puppy dog waiting for
Oh,
my
cute.
bowl. But even if I'm in the middle of something, if I take the time to do that and spend even just a few minutes and spend the time with the food, don't throw on any external whatever to pipe into our ears. I think that's recharging for the soul.
Yeah.
And so I've been taking that mealtime opportunity, and that's been such a blessing. It's also a bonding experience. But even if it was me on my own, if the food was made for me, rather than put myself back up in front of the computer, if it's not raining, I'll throw myself out the front door and sit down for a few minutes outside and be with my food.
Yeah, I'm one of the and I know that we're about to close, but I'll say this very quickly. One of the things that I'm doing now is like if I'm really task oriented, I'm working on the computer, and I have that kind of energy, and then I went to
Step
talk to
away from the screen.
exactly, and I was talking, but when I'm in that mode of like editing something or writing something, and I was going for a walk with my husband, and I said, wait a second, before we even talk, I need to just dump whatever this is, and I said, let me just meditate, and I just imagine white light coming through me, red light coming through, white light, cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. And then I was like, okay, now I'm here. But because otherwise, there's a part of your mind, your conscious and unconscious mind are like, and until you just kind of clear that out, I think you don't start with a clean, fresh, new thing to digest. Whether it's your meal with Jessica or my conversation with my husband, like even, and it took 2 or 3 minutes to do that little meditation, and it's so important. So any other tips on before we sign off?
I think the busier you get, the more self-care that is required, not optional.
Yep.
And so when you think, I don't have the time to meditate, I don't have the time to focus on my breath, I don't have my time to get off of my smartphone, to get off of my computer, or I need to leave the house right now, this second. Now, when you, sorry everyone, when you get that energy going, it means you have to slow down. You have to take that break. You have to take that
Mm,
pause. It's not only refreshing and rejuvenating, but in a very literal sense, it can save you from the crash, whether that's a literal crash or that's a crash because you said something stupid, you did something stupid. Stupid in quotes, they're all learnings. But when we go 100 miles an hour, we inevitably miss the turn that we should have taken, which means we're now trying to go 150 miles an hour
right. The other
to get back
direction.
to the
Right.
right turn.
Exactly. I
So
couldn't
you,
agree with you more. That's great insight.
thank you. On that note, for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
CJ Lou.
saying, be well, have fun, take the time to find the time to eat, to breathe, and to take that off ramp, and shine
Shine
bright.
bright.
Woohoo!
Woo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.